word I say strikes fear down your spine and into your cerebrum, I know who you are.
People think you can't say UCW without Brian the Brain and Matthew Storm. That might be the case, and I might be a little biased towards that fact. But in my opinion, you can't say UCW without Brian the Brain and Colby Jordan. After all, that's the one thing I remember the most about their rivalry. They were the ones that laid the foundation for what a blood feud truly looks like. After all, I should know because I was there. I remember a lot of things about their rivalry. I remember Brian the Brain running around like a little chicken shit every time Colby really wanted to kill him. I remember Colby bleeding like a stump pig when Brian attacked him from behind.
It's Brian. He's right there. He came out of the crowd. But let's say the boss has the advantage. He can blend in, sneak in. And it looks like Brian getting his revenge on Colby for all the attacks.
He just keeps beating him. Colby's bleeding all over. He just keeps punching him.
Just Polarianic like what he did to VH at the FAM Rumble. He's beating him down like a stump pig. This is horrifying, man. I've never seen it at the Bash at the Beach. And here's the signature Carter trademark. Brainbuster.
We should probably get away.
Oh, shit.
I remember more than my fair share about that rivalry. The one thing I remember the most, I remember their Hell in a Cell match at Destiny. A damn good match. A bloody war to say the least.
When it comes to Colby and Brian facing off against each other every single time from what I remember, it was always a match to see. Truly never disappointing when it came to the two of them.
What I remember about the rivalry between Colby Jordan and Brian the Brain is something that I don't think anybody else here will really remember. See, they started to pick up going at each other during a time where I was trying to go at both of them, actually. At one point, Colby and I battled it out for the UCW World title, and I lost. And shortly after that, he went to war with Brian. And I remember the calamity backstage, the touring, the tension that would always be brewing. It was something. It was a time period that you needed to be there to really understand.
What are some of the main things I recall from Brian and Colby's rivalry? I think the two moments that stuck out to me most was Bash at the Beach 2017, where it was the last man standing match between the two. And if Colby Jordan won, I believe he was added to the World Championship match later on in the night. And Brian cost Colby by having a team known as the name of the Brain Faction, I believe it was, attack Colby Jordan and cost him a match.
It's both members of the Brain Faction. They're out here helping Brian the Brain. No, not a brain busters to the on the chair, my God. By bringing out the Brain Faction.
Once again, he could not be outsmarted.
I remember sitting in the back with all the other superstars who was booked that night, and they were uproaring with rage about it because none of us knew that was going to happen. But me, I felt like I understood why Brian did it. He didn't break any of the rules. It was a no disqualification match. It was last man standing. Do whatever you can to incapacitate your opponent until they can't respond to the count of 10. He didn't break any rules, so what was the point of an uproar of rage? Brian did what he had to do. Then it was UCW Destiny. It was Colby and Brian inside Hell in a Cell. I had a minor injury in my right wrist that I was recovering from because I had surgery on it to fix some of the tendons in my right wrist. I remember watching in Gorilla with a couple other the guys who had just competed the match prior, And we watched Bryan and Colby send each other through hell and back, quite literally, because they were locked inside Hell in a Cell.
History is sure to be made tonight.
The second time
versus Colby, just bound to be an amazing match.
And Bryan is no stranger to a Hell in a Cell, competing in one last year at Genesis against the Bryan, and sadly he came up short. We're gonna get back at Bryan for not giving him the title shot that he should have earned.
Then Colby took matters into his own hands anyway. As the
Bryan,
massive structure is
Colby
being
Jordan.
lowered
And here we go.
into the steel post.
What's Bryan gonna do here?
Oh no, he's wedging him against it.
No. You can't do that. Oh my god.
Right against the ring post. Colby has to be knocked down now. As he stands up for
Spear!
Spear! Spear through the cage!
No. Is he seriously gonna...
Super kick! Oh my god!
Oh my... Is he still breathing?
Bryan landed on his head. Irish one.
Oh,
Colby!
he's trying to end it right here.
Brainbuster on the sledgehammer. Bryan with the hit and run, and Colby's up. Sledgehammer there. Hurricane.
Oh my god, that has to be it.
1, 2. Oh my god. Even after all this, Bryan's still powering through. The crowd going nuts at this amazing match. Shimaka!
That has to be it.
Bryan brutalized, lost a lot of blood. And that's it, Colby wins.
What a match by these two men.
And I even watch back that match to this day, and I'm like, I can't believe I got to see that in person. It's one of those matches that I didn't even participate in any variety in it, and it's just stuck with me ever since, because honestly, it was one of the best matches I've ever seen between the two. And then Colby Jordan won and went on to become UCW World Champion at Genesis 2. So those were moments that I had to recall most from Bryan and Colby's entire rivalry that's gone on for years. Those two would be the biggest memories, in my opinion.
The fuck do I remember? I remember history. I might have not been there, I might not been canon, but history is forever, and that's what these two have in their diverse career paths. You want to know how many Hell in a Cell matches that have impacted somebody? It does every single damn time you step into that cage trapped, and you never leave the same modern day individual. You're broken in half, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Your soul is torn into pieces, and these two men have glued the pieces back together and are now better versions of themselves.
Who do I think needs to win this match more, Bryan or Colby? Personally, I want to say Bryan, because he set the bar of being the UCW World Champion after the former champion, for some unknown reason, wasn't the initial champion upon the title's reappearance. But I honestly have to say Colby, because Colby, ever since UCW shut down, I can't recall off the top of my head seeing him do much of anything. I don't know if it's him biding his time for the right moment, or if he just doesn't have that same feel for pro wrestling as he did whenever him and I were in UCW. But I believe Colby needs to win this more, because he has a lot more to prove because of that time off. Bryan, he's gone through people in one fell swoop, from Jackie to Leo to Peligro and Chris, both Peligro and Chris in one day. I believe that sets the bar higher for Colby, because Bryan's already proved himself 4 times in a row now, and Colby, he has a lot to prove with this match at After Party.
Bryan needs to prove that God is nothing but a myth on stone, built from clay, cause Brian says he's the devil, but both gods and devils play prankster. The punchline is, who can leave a devastating last maneuver? Brian needs to show how far advanced in that nanotech he's grown to use his advantages if he's really 5 moves ahead of you.
And that's why, in my opinion, I think Colby needs this win more than anything. He beat Brian once. He can certainly do it again. After all, he is the God of Thunder.
I mean, Brian needs the win to prove that he's the most dominant man in UCW. But then Colby is the only man that I know of in UCW history to really have Brian's number.
When it comes to who needs this win more, Brian, though I hate to give him the credit, he has risen to the occasion and brought relevancy back to himself in a way that only I have done before. Colby, nobody's really looking for Colby right now. Not to say that they shouldn't, or that he is not an asset that needs to be looked at. But it's just not at the level of Brian the Brain right now. So definitely, Colby needs to win this match more.
Brian's strength right now is that he has it all. The chick, the pawns on the chessboard, the championship, the top-notch victories over today's stars like Chris Russell's, Peligro, Jackie Blake. He's a master strategist. One weakness, he can also be full of himself. You seen the shit Russell has done to him? Peligro's Spanish fly that motherfucker off a ladder from the god's horizon to the downfall.
Peligro, no. Oh my god!
The question is, can he prove, without the chick, the pawns, any help from an enemy of his or not, that he's a man of his word? That's a tricky question. As for Colby, he's basically facing his teacher. Brian said he showed him the ropes, the business. Brian gave him his world, and now he might take him out. Cause the kings kill when the prince feels power. As for strength, if he was able to beat Brian before, no shit, he can do it twice. That's his advantage point. Use that against him.
Both of these men have plenty of their strengths. Colby is a god, so he's definitely seen more than his fair share of punishment. I should know. I faced him once before, but that might be a weakness Colby has. Colby might be a god, but he runs headfirst into battle like a warrior. He doesn't exactly think about the consequences. But then again, Colby is a warrior, and he knows better. So I'm willing to guarantee that he learned from that weakness. Brian, on the other hand, calls himself the Brain, and he is very smart. He likes to calculate his opponents. He likes to understand them, try and think before they make their next move. But that also might be what damns him. Because for as long as Brian thinks, that gives his opponent an edge. It gives them the edge to attack him and hit him just as hard. And that might work in Colby's favor. Colby could see Brian thinking, understanding, what do I need to do to put this man away? And he will attack. Whereas in Colby's case, he might dodge headfirst into a situation he doesn't know he's going into. And Brian already calculated that, and he might attack him first. You never know.
When it comes to their strengths and their weaknesses, Brian, 9 times out of 10, you always see his true self whenever he's not in the ring with Colby, including outside interference, whether it be from Karen, the chess club, the Carters, you name it. Anytime Brian has always had someone interfere when it came to his matches, it was always. Sometimes some people could say desperation. Other people call it tactics. As for me, I think of it as tactic. But sometimes, especially if you're facing off against Colby, would those tactics be the best thing to do? Colby, on the other hand, everyone sees him as this god. Truthfully, everyone knows that when it comes to Colby Jordan, there's one thing that comes to mind, and that is the king of satanic strong style. That's what put him on the map. That's what made people really pay attention to Colby Jordan.
One of Bryan's biggest weaknesses is the group of people he keeps around him. You know, him and groups do not get along well. Ask his family. If not by his own ego getting in the way, undivided evil might just be his downfall.
I believe one strength with Colby is his determination. Whether that time off has affected that or not, that determination I know lives in the God of Thunder. Whenever we were in a short-term faction that didn't last long, because I believe I'd gotten released from UCW to be re-signed a month later, we were in a faction known as Satanic Strong Style, and he just was always determined. Whether that was to be the world's champion or to continue to be the world's champion, he was just always determined, no matter what. But that the one weakness I see in Colby is that inactivity, that ring rust. Whether he's a god or a man or somewhere in between, like, there's going to be ring rust no matter how long you're gone. Even if you're gone a week, there's going to be ring rust. And I know he's faced Bryan more times than I can count, but I think that ring rust will possibly be that deciding factor in the match. But for Bryan, his strength is easily, again, he's set the bar and he's proved why he can reach that bar every single time. He set that bar very high by being the world champion, coming back with UCW, and now he's trying to set the bar even higher with the UCW World Championship and the Intercontinental Championship on the line at After Party. But I believe that weakness is the same thing as that strength, is that he keeps setting that bar higher and higher. And in any other human, as well as Bryan included, it's only a matter of time before he can't reach that bar anymore. And I think he needs to find a point of settling. And people know I'm not a man of complacency, but I believe Bryan needs to be complacent with one spot if he wants to continue to be one of the best on the current roster in professional wrestling today.
And in all honesty, I want Bryan to walk out of After Party the UCW champion, because I want to be the one to take that title off of him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I really do wish you the best of luck, Broken Nose Boy. Because when the time comes, when you pass Colby, when you pass Chase Bryan, I'll be waiting for you. And it is definitely my turn and my time.
Who do I think has the most potential to win this match between Bryan and Colby? I want to say Colby. I respect the man a lot, but if I want to be logical here and realistic here, it has to be Bryan. That man's one of the smartest people to ever step in this ring. He knows the ins and outs of this ring. He knows how to bypass the rules. Even if there are none, he knows how to bypass ways to where he can win, because people always try to debate how he's been winning since returning with the UCW World Championship. Was there ever a bell rung? Was there ever an official disqualification made? Did Peligro win by disqualification? Did Chris Russell win by disqualification? Did Leo Sua win by disqualification? Did any of them win by disqualification whenever Tiffany Von Karen or Bill Moriarty and Slade Draven popped up? No. Why? Because they were no disqualification matches. Whether people want to admit it or not, Bryan the Brain did what he had to do to retain the UCW World Championship. And with this being a false count anywhere match, Colby Jordan has walked into a trap, whether he was handpicked or not. Colby Jordan has signed his death warrant with this match. With Undivided Evil, with Tiffany Von Karen and possibly the rest of the Bryan family dynasty waiting behind Bryan, whether it be Jacob or the Brain faction or any of them, Colby Jordan's walking into a trap nonetheless. That's my official prediction. Bryan the Brain will reign supreme. He'll remain undefeated since returning, and he will hold 2 championships above his head at the end of the night.
Bryan the Brain Carter is who I'm placing my dirty money on. The tactics he's fucking pulled have despised everyone. The methods he's delivered has made the man get booed. The fan beating, chess club, the chick. He's always found a way out, and it isn't clean. But Bryan's definition of 5 moves ahead of him is any means necessary. And that's what the puppet strings he's pulling. This is his world. He doesn't care about you, the people, or any other motherfucker in the turf. He laughs while having the world in the palm of his hands, eating out his balls. Bitch! Ha! From CZB.
Both of these men have faced each other once before. They know each other inside and out. Actually, correction. They faced each other twice. Once at Bash at the Beach and a second time at Destiny. Their record sits at 1-1. Though I wouldn't call it fair, because Bryan the Brain had an advantage from that bastard faction he called the Brain Faction. You see, I wonder if he's gonna use that horseshit attempt to recreate that faction, undecided or undisclosed evil. I don't know what he calls it, but who do I think will win and leave with all the gold? As if my decision wasn't obvious enough. I got Colby. Colby's my friend, and Colby is a warrior. And he knows Bryan the Brain better than anyone. He knows him just as well as I do. And Colby's faced him more times than I have. So Colby, I say to you, good luck, my friend. Make him drown in his misery. And as for you, Bryan, I will be there to watch you get your head pulled off your shoulders like a stump pig. Enjoy your misery. Because that's all people are going to remember of you.
Who do I think will win? Truthfully, it can go either way. Both men bring a lot to the table when it comes to UCW. Bryan is UCW. Colby Jordan is UCW. It's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the both of them. But when it comes to walking out with all the gold, since winning, well, I wouldn't really call it winning, but since taking back the UCW championship, Bryan has done a lot. Giving out opportunities left and right to defend that title any chance he got. And so far, he's done a lot of undermining tactics to keep that title around his waist.
Wait a minute. Sua is telling the ref to open the cage. Sua, he can't stand, but he will roll out of the cage. And oh my God! Who the hell? Someone just closed the cage door. And what? Tiffany Von Karen, the wife of Bryan Carter, just cost Lionel Sua the UCW World Champion. And ladies and gentlemen, still the UCW World Champion. Bryan's doing, what the hell? Bryan just grabbed a fan from the audience and what?
Bryan, no. No le hagas nada.
Yo sí, soy un cabrón. Bryan, no! No! Oh! Bryan just brainbusted a fan and... What the hell? You gotta be kidding me. The chess club is really helping Bryan. The chess club just cost Peligro the UCW World Championship.
But when you think of Bryan the Brain, you know he always has a plan to execute. And Colby, truthfully, since he won the Intercontinental Championship, you haven't seen much from him. Seeing this match, I'm truly torn because I don't know who I would want to win. But regardless of the fact, it can go one or two ways. Bryan wins both the Intercontinental and the UCW World title, and all hell will break loose when it comes to the rest of the men's division in UCW. And then Colby, on the other hand, if he wins the UCW World title and it keeps his Intercontinental Championship, truthfully, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to Bryan, whenever he doesn't have that title, he will do anything and everything to make sure that that title goes around his waist. Regardless of who's champion and who's not, he will make the attention right back onto him, as he should. But, truthfully, it can go either way. All I know is, just like the rest of you, I can't wait to see this match. And once and for all, we'll find out who wants it more and who is the better man and the official face of UCW. Oh boy, I can't wait.